About, I think it was 4:20 the next morning, I heard this super loud explosion that scared the crap out of me, to be honest. I rolled out of the bed onto the floor, made my way to the window, and looked outside. I couldn't see anything that looked weird. I turned around to make my way to the door to check for smoke or something. As I turned around, I could make out that the door of the mini fridge was wide open. I turned on the lamp and immediately saw the source of the explosion. Thank God I had used the Voyager that night. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. As part of the gear review that I'm doing after my big 5-week, 7,200-mile moto trip, and for another video in my Riding with Diabetes series, I want to go over my experience with the 4AllFamily Voyager Portable Travel Refrigerator for insulin and other medications. If you didn't see the first video that I did on the Voyager, then I'll put a link to that video in the description down below. But to give everyone a quick rundown, the Voyager is made by 4AllFamily. They're a company that specializes in making solutions for keeping insulin and other medicines at refrigerated temperatures while you're traveling or just out for the day. They make a variety of products, and the two that I used on the trip were the Voyager and the Nomad, specifically the big size Nomad. The Nomad comes in different sizes. I'll get into why and how I use the two in a second, but the Voyager is comprised of three main components: the container, the biogel pack, and the refrigeration unit. Plus, you have two options for power. One is included with the Voyager. It's a USB charger and cable. And the other is to power it through an optional portable battery pack. Although you can use your own portable power pack as well, assuming that it has the appropriate power specs. You can use the Voyager in two ways. The first is to use the biogel pack. You put the biogel in your freezer for at least 6 hours, and it will keep your meds at refrigerated temperatures of 36 to 46 degrees Fahrenheit, which I believe equates to 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, for 28 hours. It will keep them cool between 46 degrees and 79 degrees after that 28 hours for an additional 20 hours. So it's a total of 48 hours cooling. This is based on their performance testing at external temps of 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees Celsius. And you're about to hear what my experience was while traveling for 10 or more hours a day on a motorcycle in temperatures often in excess of 100 degrees. The other way is to use the refrigeration unit. That will keep everything at refrigerator temps of 36 to 46 degrees Fahrenheit for as long as you have the unit powered. And yeah, I had to use the Voyager this way a few times during the trip, as you're about to hear. The Big Nomad only comes with the biogel pack, and the cooling specs are the same as for the Voyager when you're using that with the biogel. The smaller sizes of the Nomad have different cooling specs, but I'm not going to get into any of that here. You can check out their website at 4allfamily.com and see product descriptions as well as guides on how much you can store in them based on the type and brand of injectables that you use. So let's get into how I use these and what my experience was for the 5 weeks that I was dependent on them while riding around the country on my bike. First, these things hold a ton of meds. Again, check out the product pages on their website to see just how much they can store of the type and brands of meds that you have. Unfortunately for me, my injectables come in some of the largest pens out there, and the foot cap of these things are a big triangle, which makes things worse. I take Mounjaro. According to their website, the Voyager and Big Nomad would hold 2 Mounjaro pens. My problem for this trip was that I had to carry 5 pens. But I discovered that by removing the foot cap from one of the pens and covering it with tinfoil, I could actually fit 3 pens in each container with the biogel pack. Now, I'm not telling you to do this. I'm just saying that this is what I did, and I did not have any issues with it. This was the first pen also that I used, so I was only carrying it this way for the first week. So this took care of 3 weeks' supply in the Voyager. I then put an additional 2 pens in the Big Nomad with its biogel pack. Then I would pack the refrigeration unit in my saddlebag along with my other electronics. And I am really glad that I took that refrigeration unit with me. The biogel packs were super, super easy to use, and they aren't messy like some of the other cold packs I've used. They perform perfectly to spec while traveling in the heat. To use the biogel pack, you simply shake it up before putting it in the freezer to make sure the gel's not concentrated in one area inside the pack. Put it in the freezer for at least 6 hours. It's cool to leave it in longer overnight, but it has to be in there for at least 6 hours. Then, when you take it out of the freezer in the morning, let it set in lukewarm water for 2 to 3 minutes while you're getting dressed so that it reaches its internal temp and doesn't carry over the freezer temperature. Put it in the container, put your meds in, and then put the cap on the container. And voila, you're ready to get on the bike and head out. To jump ahead a bit, the first week I was putting both the Voyager and the Big Nomad in my tour pack when I loaded up the bike. Now, let me tell you, the heat was brutal on this trip. Like I said, a lot of days over 100 degrees. At least the first half of the trip, the temps were in the mid to upper 90s. And then again, a lot of days over 100 without one drop of shade anywhere to be found. I wish I'd taken something with me to measure the temperature of the stuff in my tour pack and saddlebags. But if you've ever toured in heat like that, then you already know that the stuff inside those gets super hot just from the ambient heat in the bags. After the first week of the trip, I had so much confidence in the Voyager and Nomad that I actually packed them in my luggage on top of my tour pack to test that out. And they performed to specs every single day, even with the direct sunlight heating up the tour pack bag. That might seem like a stupid idea to have done that, but these are the things that I do to vet products for you guys. As far as my experience at hotels, if my hotel room had a mini fridge with a freezer, and I was comfortable with it, more on that later, then I would put my meds in the fridge and the biogel packs in the freezer. Repack the containers with the biogel and meds in the morning, get on the bike, and head out on the road. I did stay at several hotels that did not have freezers in the mini fridge. In that case, I put the meds in the mini fridge, then had the person at the front desk put my biogel packs in their kitchen or employee fridge. I only had one hotel that they seemed to have a problem with doing this for me, but I was able to work it out. You bet. Because I was trying to keep my hotel costs down on this trip. I wasn't really staying at the business class hotel properties very often like I normally do. And during the second half of the trip, I stayed in several hotels that did not have mini fridges in the rooms at all. Or the mini fridge was skanky, or I didn't trust it. In that case, I pulled out the Voyager, the refrigeration unit, plugged it into the USB charger, and ran the Voyager with that overnight until I was ready to leave the next day. You can't hear this thing when it's running. I mean, it's super silent. So no worries, if you're a light sleeper with it disturbing your sleep. In these cases, I convinced the front desk person to put my biogel pack in their employee freezer. Fortunately, these happened after I'd already used at least half of my meds, and I was only using the Voyager at that point, so it all worked out. There was one night, the second to last week, I think, where I checked into a hotel that I had second thoughts about. Yeah, should have listened to my spidey sense. Unfortunately, I had prepaid for the hotel and it was getting late, so I decided not to just go somewhere else. When I got to the room and I opened up the mini fridge in the room, it didn't look right to me. I mean, there was just something that seemed weird. So I gave my biogel pack to the front desk, kept my meds in the Voyager, plugged it in, and went to sleep. About, I think it was 4:20, the next morning, I heard this super loud explosion that scared the crap out of me, to be honest. I rolled out of the bed, onto the floor, made my way to the window, and looked outside. I couldn't see anything that looked weird. I turned around to make my way to the door to check for smoke or something. As I turned around, I could make out that the door of the mini fridge was wide open. I turned on the lamp and immediately saw the source of the explosion. Thank God I had used the Voyager that night. When I checked in, I had bought a can of Diet Coke that I ended up not opening. So I put it in the mini fridge before I crawled into bed. And apparently the mini fridge got so cold that it froze the Coke solid and the can exploded. with enough force that it blew the door open on the mini fridge. Had my meds been in there instead of in the Voyager, they would have been frozen and rendered unusable. So my Spidey sense and the Voyager saved my butt. Should have listened to the Spidey sense on checking into the hotel to begin with, though. So for the rest of the trip, I plugged the Voyager in after checking in and kept my meds in there overnight while freezing my biogel packs in the mini fridge freezer or giving it at the front desk if I didn't have a mini fridge. And to be honest, I'm going to be doing that every day on the 3-week trip that I'm about to leave on. I just don't trust these mini fridges anymore in these non-business class hotels. There were a couple of other times that the refrigeration unit of the Voyager saved me. Luckily, these were also during the second half of the trip when I was already halfway through my meds and didn't need the Nomad. In these cases, the biogel pack did not freeze. Something, again, wrong with the mini fridge. So what I did was put the injectables in the refrigeration unit and power it with the portable power bank to use it while I was riding each day. Now, it's important to understand that the refrigeration unit circulates air to regulate the inside temperatures within the container. So you cannot store this in enclosed spaces like a tour pack or a saddlebag. What I did in these cases was to pack the Voyager in that front flap of my El Sandoval bag with the top of it sticking out, exposing it to the outside air, and it ran perfect. The temps while traveling on those days were in the low to mid 90s with clear skies. So it was super hot and sunny. When I'd stop for a stretch break or to get gas, I'd check that little display on the top of the Voyager to see that the container, what the temperature was inside the container. At no point did it ever show above 46 degrees Fahrenheit. The unit comes on if temps reach 46 and shuts off at 36 degrees to keep the inside temperature regulated. I have no way of knowing if it was running constantly while I was riding or if it was turning on and off to keep the temperature regulated. And on those days I was running, it was probably about 10 to 11 or more hours a day. I think my bottom line here is that there's no way that I could have done this trip without the Voyager and Nomad. None of the solutions that I've been using for years when traveling could have handled these conditions. And I'm pretty sure that my injectables would have been ruined fairly quickly. For Manjaro, if the meds go over refrigerated temperatures, and I think up to 86 degrees, then you cannot use those meds after 21 days. It's unsafe at that point. I'm pretty sure that would have happened within the first 48 hours of my trip if I'd been using my old solutions, meaning that I would have had to probably cut my trip short by a couple of weeks to get back home, and also then plead with my insurance company to approve sending me a replacement supply. It's hard enough getting prescriptions filled on this stuff as it is. I mean, the available supply of many diabetic injectables right now is being overrun by people using them to lose weight. Don't even get me started with that mess. I love these things so much. I'm actually going to buy a smaller size Nomad to use for short trips where I'm going to be riding the bike, say to go visit family for a few days. I'm only riding for a few hours to get there and back, or maybe going on a weekend trip where I just need to take a week's supply of meds with me, or flying. I mean, perfect for flying because these are all TSA approved as long as the biogel pack is frozen. I really wish that I'd had the Voyager when I went to places like Australia and South Africa or Singapore and other places in Asia, places like that, because that would have been a much better solution than what I use to keep my injectables cool on those 35 to 45 hour flight travel days. Yeah, it's a long travel time. I was showing the Voyager and the Big Nomad to some Type 1 and Type 2 peeps that I was with at our 5 Dirty Bikers meetup. They were absolutely blown away. Absolutely. Because, I mean, we all deal with this problem, right? If you have to inject and carry meds with you. These 4AllFamily products are absolutely an amazing solution for motorcyclists injecting to manage their diabetes, especially those of us who tour. If you take insulin or some other type of injectable, go check out the 4AllFamily website to see their products. After 12 years of living with diabetes, I'm super happy that I don't have to worry about traveling with my injectables anymore. And, every little stress point that we can eliminate just makes life so much easier. And if you see something on the website that you want to order for yourself, make sure to use the discount code Percy10 to get a 10% discount. Now, I do get a little benefit from that to support the channel when you use that discount code. And you save 10%. Win-win. Let me know if you have any questions about the Voyager Big Nomad. I'm going to be heading out on a 3-week trip this week. If there's any scenario that you're curious about that I haven't covered here, then let me know down in the comments below so I can check it out during the trip and post something back to you here. Until next week, stay safe, embrace life, drown yourself in positivity, keep that glucose in check. Peace.